Lee and Michelle. It is March 7th, 2017. We want to take you to our very favorite French presidential candidate, Marine Le Pen, where she's bringing a very...
The EU strikes again! This time causing hundreds and thousands of farmers to commit suicide, which is a really big deal, you guys.
And it really hits us close to home, because not only are we farmers and not only homesteaders and stuff like that, but we also believe that it is kind of God's design for most of mankind to be farming, to be in the earth, and to be
work with your hands and to see the fruit of your labor.
And so, as a conspiracy theorist or whatever, you know, we talk about the globalists and everything like that. I have to tell you guys, the globalist agenda is to shut down the family farm.
Right.
And you're seeing that, and Maureen is waking up to that, and we want to bring words straight from her.
And then we're going to kind of delve into this, because this is such a big deal. I mean, if there's, like, the Federal Reserve is, like, the biggest deal.
Yeah.
And then the fact, what happened under the Federal Reserve is they made all things that you would do with your hands and farms, and they made it just like in the movies, just like Wall-E, to where we sit in our chairs and the machines bring us the food, and it's mostly corn and soybeans and things like that.
Many of you guys don't realize that the milk that you buy at the store has to come from a cow. The cheese you buy from the store has to come from a cow. The chicken that you buy is from a real chicken that has to be farmed, and it needs to be done in an ethical manner.
For the farmer and for the animal and for the land.
And these farmers, they have so many restrictions on them that they are literally killing themselves, because they can't farm the way that they know God wants them to farm.
Right, so let's go into, we're going to try to do this the best that we can. It's so difficult when it's not English, so it's easier for us to kind of read what they're saying to you.
So bear with us.
Yeah.
À présent à nos questions régionales.
So she says, we're now going to tackle regional questions, and we'll start with agriculture.
Et on commence par une question sur l'agriculture.
A week ago, a woman farmer in Côte-d'Or, sorry if I can't say it right, Brittany, committed suicide in the milking room.
Il y a une semaine, une agricultrice des Côtes-d'Armor s'est suicidée dans sa salle de traite.
She was a 47-year-old dairy farmer and a mother of 2.
Wow.
Elle était productrice de lait, mère de famille, 47 ans, 2 enfants. Les suicides se multiplient par 3 en 2016. Comment vous comptez régler ce problème de la détresse des agriculteurs?
This problem of the distress of farmers, and then this is where Maureen steps in.
Cette détresse,
She said, this distress, let me tell you first of all, that it is gut-wrenching.
De vous dire que elle nous arrache le ventre. Voilà, je crois, tous les Français.
Voila, I think, to all the French people, 1,000 suicides.
Sorry for me to go back.
That's okay. In 5 years, it's absolutely huge, she says. This means that some proportion of farmers don't believe in politics anymore. Politics must regain control of financial markets, and they must regain control of finance. It must regain control of everything in the European Union, which in fact decided as part of its plans to make French agriculture vanish.
De l'agriculture française et la disparition.
And to make vanish, more specifically, the French agricultural model.
Now I want you to hear this. I get goosebumps. I got goosebumps when I heard it before. This is where my being connected with Marine Le Pen.
Agricole français qui est fondé
which was founded on the model of family farming.
That's the key. Right now, family farms across the world are struggling. This is not just a French issue. Now I know it is. Okay, family farming. You have to recognize that a person has to get up and work on the land, right?
Yeah.
You can't just go to a job.
Yeah.
A farm, you've got to be on the farm.
You can't just take a vacation.
Leave it like at the vet. Animals need care 24/7.
Yeah.
Sometimes pigs or cows are giving birth at all times. You've got to live on the farm.
Yeah.
So
we have a friend of ours who does cattle, and just through the winter, I mean, he's out there and it's cold, and there's a calf being born, and he's out there with it, and that is a regular occurrence for him in the middle of the night.
Right.
You know, this is real deal.
And we're mini farmers. We raise kuni pigs, and we've got our
chickens and
so you've got to be there on the farm.
Yes.
So here's the thing: we want. Part of us wants to just turn everything off and make everything mechanical. Isn't there a machine for that?
Right.
Isn't there a machine to pick your peas? Isn't there a machine to do this? and we've got monoculture farms. Yeah. That's no good for the land. It's no good for the farmer. It's no good for the health. It's no good for the animals. Monoculture meaning just pigs or just cows or just corn.
Mostly that's what we have in America.
We have become the corn capital of the world, and everybody is sick because of it, because corn's in everything. And when I was thinking about this last night, I was thinking about Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on the farm it was a cow.
We didn't plan this.
With a duck, duck here, a duck, duck there, here, duck there, duck everywhere, duck, duck, Old MacDonald.
And so you go through the whole thing, a cow, a duck, a pig,
and you learn how to say,
chicken.
Old MacDonald had a horse, and then and so I was thinking about this, and the farmer in the dell, and when a real farm has multi-speciation, multiculture.
And what it does is it also helps to break it. We're going to just give you Farm 101, just really quick. What it does when you have a multi-species farm and you rotate your crops and stuff like that is it breaks the life cycle of diseases and pestilence and parasites and stuff like that. Without that, you have a breeding ground, and that's why our corn has become this big, electronic giant of something that's morphed into whatever it is, because they're constantly fighting these things where if you're crop rotating, if your animal pasture rotating, it breaks those cycles.
Chickens and birds in general, we believe were created by God. Because to scratch through, they scratch through poo, like cow poo.
Cows go through. If there's a cow that has worms, guess what? The chickens will scratch and eat the worms, and then the worm cycle breaks.
Right, exactly. And so the same thing with crop rotation. If you're planting corn every year, if you're planting soybeans every year, which is most of what they do, you're draining the soil.
Depleting it of its nutrients.
Exactly. And so you need animals, you need manure, you need...
And when you have this, not monoculture, when you have this multicultured farm, you don't need fertilizer.
Right.
And so now we have these chemical fertilizers because you got this single crop that's growing and it's depleting the soil, and you have to fertilize, whereas you have the animals, pasture rotating and things like that, then you don't need the fertilizer.
The family farm, they work hard. Farmers, you guys don't understand, they work 70, 80 hours a week. Real farmers. There's never not working. And in France, I was looking at the wages are so low, like 200 or 300 euros a week. A month, I think. Wow. So it's crazy, and you can't really, just like in America, dairy farmers are subsidized and they can't make what it costs to produce it. So I'm going to let her finish it, and then I really want to delve a little bit more into this, the idea that one person would commit suicide, and the idea that the European Union might be causing it. Y'all need to watch out.
All right. So we need to immediately introduce a series of measures.
Tout de suite, une série. Moi, je propose 3 mesures immédiates.
I'm proposing. I can read. I'm proposing 3 immediate measures that will have concrete results.
Immédiates.
Very confident.
Qui vont avoir des résultats concrets.
The first one is economic patriotism. Communities in our territory have to order French products.
Who does that sound like? Buy American, hire American.
It sounds like Trump.
But actually, in this respect, I think Marine Le Pen has a better focus on this. Trump is more industrial, and I want him to get this.
Yes.
And if he could sit down, we need to be able to make things of our own volition and make things with our own hands and sell them.
Right.
Buy local, you guys. When you're buying your vegetables, don't buy them something that has to be shipped 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
Buy from your local farmers, your local artisans.
Économique. Nos collectivités territoriales doivent à tout prix commander des produits français.
It's unheard of to see that 50% of beef that's served in our cafeterias and so on is still imported beef. Second.
That goes true. There's no reason for America to ship beef overseas. There's no reason for
beef, and then I'm going to break it down. I'm going to give you the beef. There's no reason for you to get beef anywhere outside of your community. You should be able to buy beef from the guy that's growing the cows down the street without it having to go to an USDA processor.
Exactly.
All right, so second, we need to implement measures to ensure that farmers have a decent income. That's what they are calling for, because I would like to remind you of the numbers of the MSA, Social Security for Farmers. Half of farmers live on less than 350 euros a month, which is like $370 a month. And she asks her, will you subsidize it? And she says, I'm sorry, but is there any profession that would accept that?
Est-ce qu'il y a une profession qui accepterait
If
ça?
tomorrow,
Parce que si demain, la moitié des journalistes
half the journalists had to live on less than 350 euros a month, do you think, sorry, I missed what she said there. Well, do you think it would go unremarked?
Vous croyez que ça passerait comme une lettre à la poste?
So we have to put conditions in place that so commercial relations are negotiated in advance.
Des conditions pour que les relations commerciales déjà soient revues de manière tripartite.
By three parties: producers, processors, distributors.
Distribution.
With transparency guaranteed by the government.
Garantie de transparence de la part de l'État. Et il faut que
a stop has to be put to the great distribution.
De capter, si vous voulez,
getting a greater and greater gross margin when the producers
plus importantes quand les producteurs, eux,
are forced to sell almost without gain. And a third measure?
Well, that's kind of the same here in America.
Yeah.
You don't have the ability just to set your own price for things.
Right.
And the price of the market is going up and down like.
Finally, we need to francify subsidies. When I say francify, go back because I wasn't ready. Sorry, I can't read that fast. When I say frankified grants, it means that we are paying
Franciser les aides, ça veut dire que nous versons 20 milliards
$20 billion to the EU. And you know what? I think of the EU, I think that it has had solely catastrophic consequences. There, the question is, of course,
catastrophique.
Là, la question, évidemment, c'est le débouché.
Unblocking our exports.
Si on se prive
if we renounce PAC, Common Agricultural Policy, are we still going to be able
est-ce que on pourra toujours vendre
to sell our products to the European neighbors? But how were we doing it before? We were doing it better business before the European Union.
This is where the European Union is the big granddaddy of them all, where it says, I know better than you.
You give me your money and I will give you half of it back and tell you how to use it.
It's got all the different countries, and it's like, okay, France, you can do this, and England, you can do this, and Denmark, you can do this, and you can all do this, and y'all can do this, right? Mm-hmm. As the grandfather of them all, telling everyone what to do. And she said, we did better as French men and women before the EU became our parent.
Right.
On commerçait beaucoup mieux avant l'Union européenne. Avant l'Union européenne,
before the EU, our commercial balance
bénéficiaire
was in surplus. Today, except for wine, it generates a deficit. So it's not true that the EU was for us an opportunity to export. It doesn't let us export, and I will partially tell you why. It's because of the level
à cause du niveau, notamment,
of the currency, which makes our products barely competitive. If we stay in the agricultural domain, Mme Le Pen, I'm sorry, but you invoke the amount paid
vous évoquez la somme versée
by France to the EU, which truly is an important amount, but France is receiving as well. French agricultural is the first to benefit from EU subsidies. $9 billion planned for 2017.
Now watch this. Watch what she says here.
I love her face. She's ready to pounce.
Vous séparez de cette
if you cut off this help, if you suppress the PAC, the farmers' pensions, which is your wish,
vous supprimez la PAC, c'est votre souhait.
What do you imagine for the future? But I'm not suppressing the PAC. At some point, go back. At some level or something. Okay, at some point you have to show common sense. We pay $20 billion. Or even $21 billion almost. We get back $13 billion, PAC included. Well, we get back our $20 billion and we keep the grants, of course, or even increase it a little for agriculture. However, we change criteria because once France is the one that grants those subsidies, we are the ones to decide about the criteria. And we are going to stop this nonsensical help.
This makes absolutely no sense because this guy, it's like, this is what American government does all the time.
Hang on, Leah, hang on. I'm going to give you $100. Mm-hmm. Okay? But just promise me that you will give me back 50.
Okay.
That's kind of what she said. I mean, that's really what's happening. Like,
here, no, how about I keep
my 100? I'm keeping my 100. I don't just want my $50 back.
The idea that this is what our government does. It says, okay, so we're gonna take your money and then we're gonna distribute it back to you in like education here and a little bit here and a little bit there.
Et nous allons sortir de ces aides découplées
where EU finances the farmed land are not the farmer. Voila. And I think
So EU finances the farmed land, but doesn't help the farmer at all.
Right.
Elle finance les hectares et pas les bonhommes. Voilà. Et je pense que c'est
a mistake, and I think that we need to be based on and lean on the trade associations, because I think that those associations are the most capable of determining the needs of the industry, how not to destabilize the industry, which is the case with the grants allocated nowadays, at least in the way they are given by the technocrats in Brussels.
Les aides sont attribuées aujourd'hui par les technocrates de Bruxelles.
On va parler.
So,
that was just huge. And so to go into, this is an article from last year, February 29, 2016, where it says suicide is rampant among the French. Suicide is only the tip of the iceberg for French farmers, and a symptom of a much larger problem, mainly depressed wages and lowering prices. And the way this happens is you don't have the right to set your own price.
Right.
And the market dictates what you can sell at and who you can sell to. And the way a lot of farmers in America are getting around this is they're selling local. Because when you cut out the middleman, and we are part of a herd share because it's not technically legal to buy raw, healthy milk in America. So I have a letter from my local farmer, and I'm going to get it for you real quick. Okay, so our Amish farmer, he operates a very family farm. He says, I raise old-fashioned foods and I make my living by selling such foods to you. However, I do not think that modern food is the only cause of Americans' growing healthcare industry. The only cause of Americans' growing healthcare industry. I don't think modern food is did I say that right?
Yeah, and I think, hang on, because I want to expound upon that actually. The healthcare industry in America, and it's probably happening worldwide, it's huge. It is massive. And why is it that we need such, because we're unhealthy. Americans are downright unhealthy people, and why is that? So he's going into delving into why is everybody so unhealthy?
Disharmony in the homes, working a job only for money, a lack of thankfulness for what we have, and environmental toxins based on what is in the food. And so
besides what's in, because a lot of you guys don't realize that the food and the environment, there are toxins that are making us ill. It's in the water, things like that.
So what this article is saying is that life on the French countryside is not as idyllic as one would imagine. According to official estimates, the annual suicide rate for farmers is in the ballpark of 200.
That's insane, though.
Some saying that it's 600. I mean, that's a huge gap.
Mostly by hanging.
Right. Right. And why is that? According to a former farmer and researcher, as well as numerous agriculture associations in France, the actual number of annual suicides among farmers may be closer to 600. Wow. And so Jeffredo, this researcher, erected 600 military-style crosses to honor the fallen farmers last October.
Fallen farmers!
He says, numerous anonymous people who died giving their lives for others, to feed us, to feed the population, they died for that, explaining the symbolism of the 600 crosses. He says, he spoke, BFM-TV also spoke with 35-year-old farmer Louis Guinet, who struggled with his own bouts of suicidal ideation because of the immense physical and financial stresses associated with his job and with losing 15 of his cows in 1 year. Getting up early every day, knowing that in a month you'll only be able to make 200 euros or 300 euros with 80 hours of work per week. It's real torture. The physical fatigue, the psychological pressure, the bank that wants to give up on you, the death of the cows. I had no reason to leave anymore. Live anymore. France's suicide rate is significantly above the European average, with 16.7 suicides per 100,000 inhabitants. But suicide is only the tip of the iceberg for French farmers. It's depressed wages, lowering prices for agricultural products, and how do we really need to get to the fact that we need to buy locally.
Right.
This says it's in classic French fashion, farmers have been resorting to protests that border on performance art, such as burning an effigy to a French ecology minister, blocking tourist destinations, dumping 160,000 pounds of fruits and vegetables on Paris's Place des Républiques, and using tractors to spray manure onto government buildings.
Numerous cities. That's kind of hilarious. But I think that Marine is really laying out a very comprehensive plan, where I think Frexit is involved with that, making that happen, obviously. But I think it's hopeful, and I'm hopeful for the people of France, especially if Marine gets elected. Only really if she gets elected, that we can see this happen. Oh my gosh. Go get them, farmers. That's them spraying manure on their government. Okay, now hang on, pause that. No, just let it play. That is what I call a peaceful protest.
Because you can never have
You're not hurting anybody. Somebody's just going to have to clean it up. All right, I'm not encouraging manure spraying, but maybe if it has to happen.
This one says 600 a year, and I guess France actually has a high suicide rate in general, but amongst farmers, it's even worse, and it's something that everybody has to wake up to the fact that we've got to get back to natural ways of living. And I like what Marine Le Pen said again on family farming, and recognize that the food that we eat is what keeps us alive, is what keeps us going. And also we need to be involved in it ourselves. Our veterinarian actually, it's funny because he says that he is gluten intolerant, and he breaks out in like really bad like rashes and stuff like that. But when he was in France, he could actually eat the bread there, and he's not exactly sure why he could eat it there, because maybe it's not gluten intolerance, it's whatever, maybe
the chemicals
sprayed.
that get
you guys
sprayed.
Probably have better healthy things in even France.
More organic,
and so you've got
like that.
we are Monsanto country.
Yeah.
That's why America is like the most unhealthiest, one of the reasons. But get back to health. Love your local farmer, help your local farmer, and
grow your own.
And grow your own, exactly.
I mean, it's hard to do it with meat, on like very small plots of land, but you can always put out a garden, and that's the thing. I was about to say, if the local municipalities allow you to get chickens, but that's another restriction that here in America needs to be lifted, and especially in France, if they do have those kinds of restrictions, that needs to be lifted. We need to make it across the world easy to farm and to grow your own food, to raise animals, because people are so disconnected from that lifestyle that it's unhealthy, but the food that we are getting from the store is killing us. It's that simple. Like literally it is killing us. If you know anything about Agenda 21, you know about the globalist plan for depopulation. They want the people unhealthy and they want to kill them off, and that is what is happening. In addition to that, the other side of it is, like our Amish farmer was talking about, the health industry is a huge money-making industry, so they have to keep you ill in order to make
as
money.
I'm going through this is Vivienne Alone. She she's the mayor of a village of 160 people. She's also a farmer.
Is this in France?
Yeah. She owns 80 cows, all of which are bred for meat. However, she is not considered an organic farmer. She would rather keep the cows alive, which I completely understand with. But she says it's not economically viable. Many French farmers have tried to build large farms with over 1,000 cows, a number still dwarfed by Germany, where farmers tend to have 3,000 cows. And I'm wondering how on grass you can do that. And,
you have to have so much land.
There have been suicides in the Allier region. A farmer in the village next to hers recently killed himself under pressure of debt and chronic illness. Today, Illinois' biggest challenge is the Russian embargo. Polish farmers no longer sell to Russia and have turned instead to Italy, where Illinois once did most of her business. The Italians are buying more Polish meat, she says, because it's cheaper, even though the quality is not as good. She also notices great frustration with Brussels. And this is what I want to get to. We are not allowed to cultivate our land the way we used to. If we wanted to switch to farming grain, she would need to ask permission from the EU, which would be unlikely to grant it given the surplus of cereal farmers. 50 years ago, she says, farmers could produce the crops of their own choice as long as it was local produce. According to Aloin, Brussels always tries to fix everything so nothing changes. Overregulation, she says, will kill us in the end. She spends more and more time on paperwork. And the French consumption of meat has dropped 2% in the year. And so
I don't care where you live, all right? Now, as far as I know, France is not a communist country. Am I right? They have a democracy, and they're about to elect democratically a president, okay? So no one ever has the right to tell you what you can and cannot farm or raise on your own land.
Right.
Ever in the world.
Right.
This is a God-given, John Locke, law of nature and nature's God. You have the right to produce whatever you want.
So this farmer right here, Claude Raffaret. So Raffaret disagrees with U.S. policies on animal treatment, and guess what?
We do too.
1,000,000%. It's so wrong, and I love what he has to say here. He says, farms are too large. It is important for the farmer to develop a good relationship with his animals. He tries to feed his cows only high-quality food, but because the value of milk is down, he has to watch his costs.
That's crazy.
The day Raffaret tried to commit suicide, he had felt harassed by regulation in Brussels.
That's not in France, for those of you that are unaware that Brussels isn't in France.
That's the head of the EU, recognizing that they have set up their kingdom, their theocracy, their godlike status, right, in Brussels, and they tell everyone else what to do, the little peons, okay? And he says,
I'm bristling over the Brussels.
yeah, me too. You can't even grow your own Brussels sprouts in France, I guess. You're going to put a regulation on that. You don't have the freedom that the peasants once had, and that's a good word. You know, peasants there. You have to ask for everything. The farmer is at the mercy of local authorities, he said. There is too much paperwork and too much regulations. I'm going to tell you something. If you put something in the ground and then you sell it, you don't need paperwork. You don't need, why do you need paperwork for a farm? Okay, you don't need, and farmers are supposed to be out on the farm, not doing stupid paperwork.
You want to know why you need the paperwork? When you're trying to ship a cow from the United States to another country or something like that. If you're doing things locally and you know your local farmer, there is never a reason for paperwork. If I have a dozen eggs and I want to sell it to the people across the street, there's no paperwork that needs to happen there. Because guess what? If they get sick on my eggs, they're going to have a beef with me.
Exactly. Or an egg on your face.
They're going to egg my house with my eggs.
Raffaret's suicide attempt brought him closer to his family. It is our families that allow us to continue to move forward. Otherwise, even more farmers would kill themselves.
Oh,
he manages to pay himself $600 every month. And that's euros, which is like lower in dollar bills. And to live and take care of his children. He is currently trying to help pay for a car for his son, who is 18. And you're not going to get very far in America on $600, seriously. The way he sees it, either the politicians change and start helping the farmers, or they will start to revolt. We are digging our own grave. If the transatlantic treaty goes through, most of the agriculture sector will be destroyed. We won't know where the food comes from, and that's criminal. And that I need to take this, what he just said, and frame it. And I want you guys to all read it over and over and over and over again.
If the TTIP goes through, we will not know where our food comes from, and that is criminal.
We already don't a lot of times, and we need to. Right now, the best way we can fight back is with our own food dollars, okay?
Yes.
If you're buying food, do whatever you can to buy and source from the farmer. I mean, even if you have to drive farther to get to it.
Right. We get our beef from a farmer, and we have to drive to Indiana where it gets butchered, and we have to buy a whole half of a cow, and that's fine. But that's what we do. That's local to me.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, even though we're in Ohio and they're in Indiana, that's
what we mean by
enough.
local is you doing it yourself. You know, instead of having to go to the grocery store, which half of that gets thrown away, it's wasted, right? It doesn't all sell.
Oh yeah.
And so we spend less when we buy our half a cow or a quarter of a cow. We spend a little over $4 a pound for T-bone steaks and sirloin steaks. And
if they made it easier for farmers to farm and to sell, like here, we believe that you should be able to just sell some steaks to some people instead of having to sell them a half of a cow first or something like that.
I know a lot of people get caught up in regulations like, but what if, the meat's bad? Or what if, that's the process of being human. You're going to get in a car and accidents might happen. Know your farmer, and you know what? An accident might happen. But you have the.
Do you know how many accidents happen from salmonella poisoning when you buy that stupid bagged lettuce from the store?
I know, for real.
More accidents happen with that salmonella than ever happens. There's like no cases of death from raw milk, and yet it's illegal to sell in multiple states in the United States.
Right. So you you live your life, and life is difficult, and you need to be able to make your own wise choices.
Peanut gallery.
Peanut gallery.
If you eat food at the store, you are going to die. There's so many chemicals and many man-made artificial stuff in there that's not natural.
It's killing
for your body. It's killing you anyway. So take the chances with the
exactly
stuff.
Because you're more likely to live a long, healthy life with organic, pasture-raised beef or organic raw milk.
And even if it's not totally organic and local,
local is very, very important.
And GMOs, so you're going to die of insect poisoning.
Literally, I know I just said this earlier, and I can't hammer it enough. And I'm sorry that this is going so long, but you guys. We're dying. This is dying a death and being sick is way more important than politics.
Right.
And the problem is that politics are pushing these chemicals on us.
Why is the EU wrong? How does it trickle down and how does it affect people?
Right.
Farmers are committing suicide. Farmers in America, most farms are now large corporate farms.
And people in America get paid not to farm.
Right.
When they have a certain amount of land and there's a surplus of product, we don't want to. It's a game. It's stock market essentially with the food markets, and so they'll say, listen, there's too much now. We don't want you to grow any because it'll flood the market. And it's just that should all be wrong. Nobody should ever be paid not to farm anywhere.
Right. We could go on.
Yes, we could,
and we will.
That's why it's not realistic. It's artificial turf of economics.
Right, exactly.
It's not real economics.
Real economics happen naturally.
Right.
They're not ployed and played with.
You can't control
It's not
nature.
a game.
You can't control nature. You can't. Yeah. You
Life
can't control
finds
it.
a way.
Right.
And death will find a way. And sometimes things just need to happen. If an economic drop is going to happen because of farming or whatever, let it happen. The process needs to happen naturally, not unnaturally.
So stick with us. I'm going to highlight one story of an Amish farmer creating his own salves, and now he's sitting in prison. So,
all right, you guys, this is Leah Michelle signing off for Resistance Chicks, where it's not a conspiracy theory if it's the truth. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring the bell for notifications if you like to see more videos just like this, and find us on Facebook. God bless. Go buy local.
I was cold all alone, no place for home every day, so afraid, but you called my name.